Welcome. Welcome to Hartford Next Neighborhood Training Institute's It's Our City series, episode number 6, Public Safety. Thank you all for joining us today, and we're looking forward to a great conversation with our guests. Hartford Next is the coalition of Hartford's 13 neighborhood revitalization zones. The NRZs are the organizations that really speak for the residents of each of the neighborhoods. The coalition aims to bring together all of the neighborhoods so that we can speak and work together on common issues and also be supportive of individual NRZs and neighborhoods when they have matters of importance that need to be addressed. The Neighborhood Training Institute has been in existence since 1996, and it is formed to help us educate and bring together and learn and also do civic literacy to engage residents in the right that they have to be representative of themselves and to advocate for issues that are important to them. Today, I would like to share with you the host and introduce our host, who is Chris McArdle from Siscon, Neighborhood Revitalization Zone. And our guest, let him talk a little bit about his NRZ, as well as introduce our guest, Chief Kenny Howell, Police Chief Kenny Howell, and the new Director of Office of Violence Prevention, Chavon Campbell. So I'll turn it over to Chris at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Marion. As Marion said, my name is Chris McArdle. I'm the president of the Sheldon Charter Oak NRZ, known as the Coalition to Strengthen the Sheldon Charter Oak Neighborhood, or Siscon. Siscon's been around for about 30 years. The neighborhood, Sheldon Charter Oak neighborhood, is the area from Warmy Avenue, which is the southern side of Cole Park, Weathersfield Avenue, north to Main Street, about as far as the public library, and then Sheldon Street, which runs along what used to be the banks of the Little River. We're the only NRZ in the city with a portion of the waterfront in the neighborhood. That's the eastern boundary, is the city line, somewhere in the Connecticut River. So I'm pleased to be here today and to be hosting the chief and the director. Looking forward to a good conversation. It was informative. As you probably know, you can submit questions, whichever platform you're streaming on. I'll get them here, and we can convey them to our guests. With that, we're going to start out with Chief Howell. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start by sharing your experience since taking the helm of the police department last year.
Well, thank you. Again, my name is Kenny Howell. I'm currently the interim police chief. I took office on July 3rd of 2024. I came here in 2020 as the assistant chief, so I have been here for approximately 3.5 years before I took on the interim police chief role. It has been a great experience. This has been an awesome city. I grew up south of here in city of New Haven. It's very similar. I love the diversity. I love the culture here. And the police department we have here is beyond reproach. It's one of the best police departments, I would say, in the country. So I again, thank you for having me and the ability to express how wonderful this community is in our police department.
So what was your plan as you came into office in July?
Okay, so I am known for community policing. I began my career in 1991. Yes, 1991. When I came into policing, there was a transition from traditional policing to community policing. And so I consider myself as one of the architects of community policing. I was a young officer, and a great man last year has passed away named Chief Nicholas Pastor. Under his vision, we implemented community policing in the city of New Haven. It has been my goal since then to implement community policing wherever I go. And I want to make it clear, I always say this, that community policing is, it wasn't really taught to me through policing. It was taught to me through my mother. My mother taught me community policing, which is very simple. Treat others with dignity and respect, and how you would like them to treat yourself or your family members. So I want to start the stage there. But when I entered the police department, the chief showed how that way was implemented in policing.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a lot of things that changed the way the city worked.
So can you briefly explain the contrast, what the old
Sure.
way and the new way?
So the old way is traditional policing, where it's reactive, where officers respond to calls for service. They don't necessarily engage in the public. Their job is solely to deal with crime, reduce crime, and make arrests when appropriate. Community policing entered, whereas we realized that did not work. None of that worked. There was tension amongst the citizens, tension between the police and the citizens, and we realized that the citizens wanted what we used to have when policing way back when began, which is a relationship with their officers. All the community wants is to be able to say who their officer is, know their officer, have that relationship, and it brings volumes to solving crime, reducing crime, and building trust and accountability within the community.
Sounds like we're going to, some of our conversation is going to get into the specifics about how that actually functions. Yeah. So have there been any surprises? Have you had to modify any of your approach since you moved into the position?
Well, so the city of Hartford, the way it operates is it has two types of uniformed services in action. So one is the community services officers, whereas they do the community policing, they do what I'm talking about, they do quality of life issues and so forth, and meet with the NRZs and so forth. And then we had the patrol division, which would typically respond to calls and make arrests and so forth. So when I took office on July 3rd, I changed that to a vision that we all are responsible for community policing. So there is two separate divisions because of contractual reasons. However, we all have a shared responsibility in implementing community policing.
Great. Okay. What's the key challenge that you're grappling with?
Well, I think the key challenges is the same everywhere in all the departments and across America, is the low numbers of people who want to be police officers. Public service motivation is one of the factors that is being measured, which is there's a low amount now in going into the military, going into policing. So we're all dealing with that, and it's a surprise to me because this has been a wonderful career, and it saddens me that people do not want to engage in it.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, there's a lot of things, right? It happened around the COVID time. Some is the demonization of police officers, the way they were portrayed in the media. Some is the more responsibilities that these officers are tasked with. And some has to do with the sacrifice that is made, which is, I remember back when I got on, I had to work doubles and doubles and doubles. This generation of officers, and it's to their credit, they want to work a particular amount of time and spend a lot more time with their family, which is something that is something that is needed in policing, because you tend to get entrenched in working doubles and doubles and doubles. So they want that freedom. And when we started working from home, people felt, we started to begin a culture of wanting to work at home as opposed to going to a place and actually, so those are some of the things I think that are attributed to the fact that we have a low public service turnout.
Right. So people understand sort of the management side of it. What are the metrics that you focus on? What are the things you're driving, that you're trying to achieve in terms of metrics?
Yeah, so as far as recruitment?
Well, it could be including that, what you've got for targets and timeframes, whatever those might be. That, I don't know what the approach to that is myself, so.
So first off, we currently have a police chief process going on. So the first thing is I need to become, I'm part of the process, and hopefully I'll become permanent. Interviews have begun for that. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Second is the vision of the department needs to be moved forward as far as community policing. But to do that, we are short over 100 cops, and I'm going to launch a massive recruitment so that we can try to bring in police officers into this department so that we can have the community policing for which I envision us to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, my goal here is not only to help Hartford. I want to help law enforcement as a whole. So my time here, I would like to create something that everywhere in this United States, they can say, that came from Hartford, Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
just like CompStat came from New York City. So that is my goal. The timeline is whatever my contract is, if I'm the person that is selected for the position, and I want to get to work at it, and we have a great team of officers and the community. This is a wonderful community. I have to say this, when we had a lot of protests back, around before COVID, they were civilized protests. All over the country, places were being burnt down and so forth, not in Hartford. And people came to Hartford, and we identified who those players were that were not from here, that wanted to disrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a wonderful community, and I think we need to take time to actually sit back and look at ourselves to compliment ourselves for a job well done during that time.
And what I hear you saying is that it's not just the police, it was the whole community
Absolutely.
working together. All right, so let's talk about working with the mayor's director of the Office of Violence Prevention and how that fits in, and then we'll throw it over to you, Chavon.
Yeah, so it's been a wonderful partnership. Chavon is he didn't pay me to say this. He's an awesome individual. Anytime I need him, I just pick up the phone, and vice versa. He is able to contact me. So it's a great working relationship. It's a work in progress, and he's going to talk about something that we recently did together, and I don't want to steal his thunder, so I will let him talk about that.
Chavon, thank you for joining us. It's great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
So let's take it from there. Why don't you talk about the working relationship between the two? Explain what the office is, 'cause most people probably don't know.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll talk about the Office of Violence Prevention. It was created in March of 2024. Beforehand, one of the things I always like to mention is the office is new, but the work that has been done is not new. So Patricia McIntosh was the director of community safety and wellness, and in a lot of ways she was my predecessor, and I'm very grateful for her partnership. And the office was established to be able to have more of a focus specifically on violence prevention. Again, it was established towards the end of March and then the beginning of April. And basically, the office's focus is trying to figure out how to reduce violence within the city of Hartford by focusing on increasing communication and increasing awareness with the community, especially around community services that are available. So with that being said, one of the programs that Chief was mentioning was that we had midnight basketball, so we had midnight basketball. It ran for about 8 weeks. It was a pilot program where we got a chance to be able to have youth and adults play basketball from around 7 o'clock to midnight in partnership with the Justice Education Center, in partnership with the police department, where police officers were there. And they got to interact with the community, which is one of the things that we love. Doing walk the beats over the summer as well was another thing that the police did a great job with. I got a chance to walk with them. It was encouraging. The community members felt so encouraged to know who their police officers were. I heard nothing but good things. So having that interaction where community is going in, they're seeing the police officers. Sometimes we had police officers even playing, especially with the youth. Those are some of the things that we're talking about when we're talking about building trust within the community. So one of several things that we have going on in the Office of Violence Prevention, but one of the ways we specifically partnered with the police department.
Great. And so what was your plan or thinking coming into the position, and has it what surprised you? How has it evolved from what you originally were thinking about? How did the office get created in the first place?
Yeah. Well, so there is an Office of Gun Violence Prevention at the White House. We don't know what it's going to be in terms of its existence moving forward, but that was one of the central reasons why we wanted to create an Office of Violence Prevention in the city as well. But with that being said, the work is still going to continue regardless of whatever happens. And then talking about one of the things that I came in with, or 3 things, I wanted to make sure that we could bring in more funding towards the city of Hartford, either state funding or federal funding to increase services. Wanted to make sure that we engaged in the community in a meaningful way. And one of the last things, we wanted to make sure that the community was actually aware of the resources that we have. So one of the surprises, which is not a surprise because I've been working in Hartford for a while now, and then I also grew up in Hartford and then went to Hartford Public Schools. One of the things that I've consistently heard is Hartford has so many things, but a lot of people are not aware of it. Sometimes it can be oversaturated. So sometimes we want to make sure the messaging is clear of hey, if you need help, here's the specific resource that we can connect you with. So that has been more of a surprise, is to know how much disconnection there is with the awareness of services, because there's a lot of great things that are happening in Hartford.
Yep. And metrics? What do you got for metrics? How do you measure success? How do you...
Absolutely. So there's a couple different things that we're working on right now. We're actually creating a resource guide specifically with violence prevention resources that are available to the public, but then we're also creating a dashboard, and we're actually partnering with the city and partnering with the police department to be able to get the CompStats data, to be able to display it, to display the CompStats data in more of a graphic measure. So it's still going to be the same data that you see with the CompStats, but more displayed. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do is just making sure the data is a little bit more public facing towards people. And then, sorry, repeat your question again.
What are your metrics? How do you measure success?
Yeah.
What are the things what's in the dashboard?
Yeah. Some of the same things that are in the CompStats, honestly, that are available to the public. So reduction of violent crimes, number of shooting victims, trying to make sure there's reduction in that, which we have seen. Reduction of murder victims, we've also seen that as well. If you want to talk to, I know the chief has those data metrics as well. So, and I think one of the things I love to talk about is that is an effort of community involvement, but that is a direct effort of police involvement. That is a direct effort of some of the efforts that they've had and that they've done for several years.
So you go ahead and let's go into it.
Yeah, what do you mean?
You talk more about that.
Yeah.
And the chief, you can jump in as well on this back and forth, just let the conversation roll at this point.
Yeah, I think we're seeing numbers decrease across the country, and I think that is because of investments of community resources. But I think it is because of the measures that the police have done. Especially this year, we're seeing a reduction. Some of the things we talked about with walking the beats, some of the things we talked about. I think midnight basketball has had an impact. But those are some of the things that have popped up that I think are having meaningful impacts.
Okay. So let's Since as the NRZs are really organized around specific neighborhoods,
Yep.
Are there neighborhood-specific things going on, or is everything pretty much just citywide?
Yeah, so at least from when we're talking about the community programs that are under me, I know that we have community partners that are in different locations, like we work with Hartford Communities That Care, Mothers United Against Violence. They are in the North End, so that's one of the areas that they focus on. Compass Youth Collaborative is in the South End, but also focuses, honestly, all over the city. So wherever people need support, that's where we're going to go.
So in addition to law enforcement, and you talk about some of the other relationships and other collaborations you've got within city government, and also the organizations you just mentioned,
Yeah.
a couple of them outside of the city government.
Yeah, strong partnerships. The Reentry Welcome Center is a strong partner. So when people are coming back from being incarcerated, making sure they have a hub to go to make sure that they can get support, making sure that they can find jobs. I think that helps reduce violence because it's giving people options. It's making sure that they have other things to do that are positive, impacting the community. So the Reentry Welcome Center, we have the Neighborhood Ambassadors Program, which is a transitional employment program for people that have been incarcerated. We provide them with 6 months of employment to help service and clean up different areas within Hartford, and then a year of job training to make sure that they can get employed after they're done with our program as well. We have our Hospital Violence Intervention Program, which partners, and Community Partners in Action, and then Open Hearthworks, they do some of the reentry work. Compass Youth Collaborative, Hartford Communities That Care, Mothers United Against Violence, they're all a part of our system to be able to enter the hospital and make sure that after someone is injured, that they're taken care of within the hospital and then after they leave the hospital. So with that being said, I know specifically one of the partnerships that's great is with, we actually work with all of the level 1 trauma centers, Trinity Health of New England, which is St. Francis, Hartford Hospital, and Connecticut Children's Medical Center. But one of the partnerships to highlight is some of the work that Hartford Hospital has been doing. And I know that one of our HF specialists, who's also a PA, who her name is Ashley, she does a great job with partnering with the police department and major crimes to make sure that when an incident happens that the police department and the hospital are working in tandem. So those are some of the things that I know of that are going on.
All right, so Chief, can you take it from there and talk about that relationship and how that works? Don't forget your mic.
As far as programs that...
Go ahead and say it.
Yeah. So when an incident happens, one of the things that's important is that Hartford Hospital will make sure that they're talking to the police department just to make sure they're following all the protocols that the police would recommend to make sure that they're taking care of that citizen and the situation is being handled appropriately. So that's, from my understanding, the extent of the relationship is making sure that we're all talking to each other.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so what does that look like from the department side?
So it looks, it's what it is so long as the communication is flowing correctly, everything works out well. So some major incident may happen, and Chavon will be notified so that he can make sure that these other programs are in place, that they can go out and help the victims and so forth. I have not seen any failure in the communication, so I think everything is working really, really well. I think there was some kinks in it in the beginning, and we worked them out. We have a very robust notification system of when something happens. A lot of the commanding officers in the police department know, the mayor immediately knows, the COO, the chief of staff, Chavon, so we can make sure that these victims get the necessary help that they need.
So what are the categories or types of incidents that end up in this lane?
Well, so tragically, we all know that there was a 2-month-old that was tragically shot and killed some time ago. And something along those lines, notifications would be made. And so what we tend to forget is sometimes there's victims that they may have been witnesses. Right? So part of this is that even a domestic, let's say, we have a domestic we forget about the child that experienced the trauma. We don't want to forget about that child, because that child will grow up, and there'll be crossroads as they grow up that may, if that's not addressed, that child may grow up and take the wrong path. So we want to make sure the services are in place to help everyone involved in traumatic incidents, and the persons, the ancillary persons that actually see. And that's why we have, these community meetings. So if something happens and the community sees it, we can talk about it. I have 4 district managers. When I took over, they were called district commanders. I made them district managers so that people can better relate to what their functionality is. So they will facilitate a meeting when some traumatic event like that happens, so that we can talk about it, let it out, and it's almost like the community self-therapy. So if you need any assistance or help, they're there for you. So I think it's working well, but if anyone knows me, we always have room for improvement. And that's where this community policing initiative, I don't like to call it an initiative, it's the way that we are policing is helpful, because the community is the ones that come up with some great ideas. And what I've experienced in my 30-some odd years of law enforcement is sometimes we tell you how things are going to go. We tell the community, well, this is how it's going to go. That's not how we function. That's why anyone, there's people in this room who know me. If they see me, they can talk to me, and they come up with great ideas. Just like that same ideology applies in the police department. A police officer on the street can come up to me and say, Chief, I got an idea. They have great ideas. And so the thing we have to do is make sure we have an environment that comforts that type of communication.
It's conducive.
Yes, that's conducive for that type of information, because if you shut people down, they don't feel part of the team. They don't, and then there's trust issues, there's accountability issues. So I'm always willing to, and my cops are, to hear out what the people want and their ideas, because we're all the same. This is our community.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm hearing consistently through everything both of you are saying is that there's this, the initiative it's an approach to, we're talking about public safety and, and policing right now, but it's really an approach to government in a way of and it's been my observation, and I'm an advocate for it, that increasingly the culture in the city government has been that they're our staff, whereas in the past, and it's really like there's us, the community, right, and then there's the government. And that's the way people frequently will talk about it, particularly if you're talking about Washington. But something that I've observed multiple times, including with the department, is that sort of interactivity, and that it's really a culture that's taking hold in city government. I want to see if anybody here in the audience would like to ask a question or has anything they want to add, or if anybody does, just tap Frank on the shoulder.
Yeah, I'll kick it off.
Go ahead.
And I want to congratulate everyone, on a very positive conversation. And I really appreciate it. I mean that. But I want to ask about a difficult subject. I know a young man who lives with a lot of fear, and he got himself a gun online, which was discovered, in the traffic stop, perfectly legitimate traffic stop. The gun had never been fired. To my knowledge, he'd never had any training, and he was holding a lethal weapon. And I know this is a problem nationwide. I don't know if there's anything that can be done on a local level, but if you have any insight into what's going on with guns, and in particular how they're impacting our community, I'd like to hear it.
Sure. So, gun violence is obviously it's something that we are focused on reducing. I think that if we look at the numbers, the things that we are doing in the Hartford Police Department with the help of the community and our partners, state and federal, it's working. We, last year, I believe it's 22 homicides we ended the year with. The year before that was 39. It's 39 in 2023. So what are we doing? We have an intelligence division that is trying to not only find the persons with the weapons, but we're trying to locate where they're coming from. And we have a good idea where they're coming from. The states, they're coming from different states into our city. So that's where we have to work with federal ATF, DEA, and so forth, and we're doing it. It's working. I think that's why you also see some of the numbers go down nationwide with violence, because we are working with those federal agencies, and I hopefully we will continue to do so. You hit it the nail on his head when you said, you know, this person had a gun and so forth, and you know, and that person is going to be arrested and so forth. But where did he get that gun? That's the issue, that you can go out and get a gun. So we, you know, the community policing initiative helps with that too, believe it or not, because people, when they trust in police, that's the relationship that you build, and people come up to the cops and say, listen, I know something. I would never have said that to you if we didn't have this relationship officer, but he or she is getting that gun from this location. I want to be anonymous, please. And they can be anonymous, but then we start an investigation, and that's what we do. So that's what this is about. We police our city, just like when we had in the United States a lot of cities being burnt down and buildings burnt down. Not here, because we policed our city. When people came into our city, we said, you're not from here. No, we're not doing that. We're not burning that car. We're not doing any of that. And they left. Same here. We have to say, listen, there's gun violence here. We have to do our part, the police, and build these relationships that you trust, that we will not reveal who you are if you remain anonymous and you give us information on certain things. So yes, so dealing with how they're coming in. Some are coming in from southern states, some northern states, but we are doing everything we can do right now, working with our partners to find out the sources of these weapons. So we're on it, and I think the numbers reflect that we're doing a better job.
Thank you.
So another, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit further about any trainings that you currently have or plan to implement, focusing specifically around de-escalation or violence prevention as it pertains to mental health awareness.
Could you say that again?
I'm sorry, did you say de-escalation?
A little slower.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk about any trainings that you currently have or plan to implement and focusing on de-escalation or violence prevention when talking about a different type of approach to policing, focusing on mental health awareness. So it's basically something that's not a crime. It doesn't have to be a crime. It doesn't have to get to that point if you had the right specialist there at the moment that had to focus on mental health awareness.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I will say it briefly and
Yeah,
then
please.
pass it on to you. So the police officers, we get certified every 3 years, and we have to have training. I think it's 80 hours within a 3-year period to get recertified. But Hartford does better. Hartford, each year, each officer has to get at least 64 hours of training, 8 days. And during those trainings, we do de-escalation and so forth. It is our goal that we can do de-escalation and have the education, knowledge, and training to deal with mental health persons, because that's where we're seeing when incidents they go really, really bad sometimes, right? So we are, there's a technology question I think someone was going to ask.
Go ahead. Jump in.
Jump in. That's some of the things that we are working with, is the technology to identify incidences. So, in other words, we have a drone that goes up if we find a person. This has actually helped citizens. If there's a missing person out in the woods or so forth, a drone will go up and look for that missing person. But also what I'm proposing is a pilot program for a, I can't remember the name, but it's like an enforcement, I can't remember the exact name, but it's a drone that will go up and go to a scene prior to an officer getting there, so they can look down and see if this person is acting erratic and so forth, and then we can dispatch with the police, the HART team, which deals with mental health issues. But we also have C4. We have one of the best real-time crime centers in the country, where we actually monitor with tons of cameras incidents like that. I remember when I first came here, I actually said, who commits a crime in this city? I sat there and looked at these screens, and I saw a man hide behind a building, and they were able to dispatch to the officer saying, there's a guy hiding behind the building as you pull up, so don't pull up. And that, I think that could have been a tragic situation if we didn't have that technology. So to answer your question, the de-escalation falls into this, with the officer being trained and having the knowledge of when they get into going to those calls, what they're coming up against. And again, we have something called the HART team that we can help to have them dispatch with us, so we can try to triage it, because that's what we're seeing, a lot of mental health issues. And I can tell you now, from many years of policing, these police officers are so much better at talking to people, de-escalating, than when I first came on in 1991. So that's a positive. So I'm going to pass it on to Chavon. I think you got.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about the same thing, which is the HART team. And Patricia McIntosh, that falls under her, which she's currently the Deputy Director of the Deputy Director for Health and Human Services. And what the HART team does is it helps police officers respond to nonviolent calls and to be able to triage those situations to make sure that they're being treated with social health workers. So.
I have a question. And it follows with what you just said, Chavon. It seems that the police in the last few years have been short-staffed, but been overworked. A lot of new activities are being given to the police department, which should be going to social service departments. So if the chief, and I appreciate the job both of you are doing, and I hope that you also get the job, because I love your vision for the city. I think it's late in coming. Police have gone from a cleanup job to now prevention, to protect and serve, basically. Do you have a vision for separating the police work for the social service work? So if you, and trying to staff your department, you hire more social workers or people that can find that person that may be going out making bad choices and steer them into a different direction. So at the end, the result would be less crime, more saved souls. Is that part of your vision, Chief?
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for acknowledging the fact that the average police officer now deals with so much more than what I dealt with when I got on the job. But some of those things are now part of the modern police officer, which is our expectation. To help mitigate some of those things is the things like you said, and Chavon said about the HART team. So we brought that on a few years ago, which has been tremendous in helping us to reduce officers going to situations as such and then encountering someone and it doesn't go well because the officer's not trained. Think about it. We have a 21, you only have to be 21 years old with a high school diploma or GED to be a police officer. We're asking them to go into a situation a lot of times, and I think they have six months of training, or 7 months, but they're not social workers. They're not social workers. And my plan is to have more social workers to help with these situations. And we have to look at long-term, what's creating these issues, right? So there's two issues here, right? This is the symptom, this is what's happening, but let's look at the root of the issue and how we can address those things. So I'm willing, the police department, to help in any way we can, social services and so forth, so that we can address the symptom, but also the root, so we can try to start eliminating some of these situations, because we're going to have to do that, because this just can't keep going on. You know, people are getting more and more and more, you know, there's just issues with going on in society where people are just giving up. We have like Jimmy Barrett. We all know Jimmy Barrett. He does tremendous work.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about Jimmy. So talk about this in some depth, because it's, my understanding is that you actually do get inquiries from elsewhere in the country about this approach. How the police department is dealing with the homeless population, because it's I think it's fairly innovative, isn't it?
Yes, so we have a fairly innovative approach, and I want to expand on it. Right now we have Jimmy Barrett, and we have some community service officers who help out. But I want to give more resources to Jimmy Barrett because it's much needed. One of the issues that we have, and I've expressed this in many meetings, is if we fix, this initiative has to be with partners, and I believe the state, because we are addressing these issues, but if Hartford becomes the model and no one else does, that's going to bring more people into Hartford, and then we're going to drain resources on Hartford. So yes, we can become the model, but others have to pick up on that so that we can distribute.
So you're talking about others. You're talking about other cities in Connecticut.
Cities, correct. Other cities in Connecticut. I think it's a state issue. I think we have to work with the state, and we're willing to do that, and the state is willing to work with us. But what Jimmy Barrett is doing, yes, he goes out there. I've rode with him many times. He has actually saved people's lives. I mean it. I mean it. If you see Jimmy Barrett, you go up to him and you say, "Thank you for what you do."
So most people don't know the details, and I think they're interesting. I was very interested in understanding what is this process that you've developed, or Jimmy's developed.
Yes, so Jimmy Barrett is assigned to the outreach program. Specifically, he deals with homelessness. He'll go out and look for encampments of where homeless people are. There, he might find some people that don't have shoes. They don't have socks, and they're almost freezing to death. He will provide services for them. He has in his truck blankets. He has a bunch of things that can help stabilize them. But not only stabilize them, he provides those services to help them become a functional person in society, to the extent where some have gotten their high school diploma, they've gotten training, they've gotten apartments, they've gotten their driver's license, they've gotten jobs, they have succeeded. I've rode with this man, and people have stopped, and I said, "Did you pay them to say that?" He says, No, Chief, I didn't. Have stopped and said, "You're the chief, I just want you to know this man has changed my life. I would be dead if he didn't find me. He's helped me get everything I got." And they'll hug him, and it's God's work.
And why is it that we don't see the kind of situations with these entrenched encampments, like we've seen out in places like LA and Washington State, where it's just this scene when they finally come to grips with it?
Yeah, so we are aggressively, the city is, we have a homeless task force, and we are committed to meeting to try to find out how we can help fix this as best as we can at the city level. So we are actively, you know, like Jimmy Barrett is out there all the time, and my community services officers assist him in locating homeless people and trying to give them the services. So I don't know what the other cities are doing, but we are actively involved, and it's part of our mission to help out the people who are less fortunate.
So I know this is really more Patricia's area, but she's not here. You talk about that side of it, like what the process is when, for example, if I send an email, which I have to do periodically, saying, okay, there's an encampment in Porter Park.
Yeah.
So I don't communicate with Jimmy because it's all coordinated through Patricia. So
Yeah.
talk about that side of it, and maybe if the Heart team is involved there, we can get into the Heart team a little more, because I'm not sure a lot of people know about the Heart team at all.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to speak about that specific area because it definitely falls under Patricia's wheelhouse. I think one of the things that I definitely can speak to, I know the question was asked about separation, and it's definitely not more about separation, but more about like intentional partnerships. Because I think there is a need. There is a need for us to be able to have a social worker mindset, not all of the training specifically. I definitely think training is needed, but even talking about that idea of like, oh, I'm going to have these extra materials to make sure I can take care of people. So I think that approach should definitely be utilized everywhere, even within community organizations. That approach and that mindset needs to be everywhere, but that intentional partnership as well. And then having that intentional partnership where a police officer can call a community-based organization and say, hey, listen, I found someone that really needs support. I know that you have these resources available. Can I give you a contact so that you can start working with them, right? That's intentional partnership. And that's one of the things that we're trying to create with the resource guide, is that we can give it to whoever needs it and say, listen, these are the exact services that are needed. This organization helps people. If you've been shot and you have housing needs, I can call this organization because I know that this is their specific needs, and here's how we address that. And then having a contact person that they can reach out to. That's part of increasing the awareness of services, but again, that's intentional partnership. So we can help bridge some of those gaps. So we're not just putting everything all in one specific area, whether it's police, whether it's community organizations too. Because I think sometimes community organizations can be leaned on as if they're the police department, and that's not the case. We need to partner with each other. And that strengthening of collaboration is what's going to help the city of Hartford and our country.
Okay, we got another question. Gentleman with the mic, and then we'll go over. Frank will move the mic after you're done. Go ahead.
Okay. So you brought up an earlier point about technology, and that was kind of interesting to me. So I wanted to ask, are you looking to hire computer science graduates? And if so, like what skill sets are you looking for, and what type of work would they be doing?
So I want you to be a cop first. You be a cop first, and I'll assign you to C4. But on a serious note, yeah, we have information technology people that are assisting us with all these things. So the cool stuff we got going on is, we got the C4, which is our real-time crime center. I'm putting in the budget, if it's approved, to have this drone that will go out, because we are short a bunch of police officers. So if it goes out, sees, listen, that area is clear. If our C4 camera can't pick it up, then the cop can just clear the call and go on to the next. But we have something you might like, it's called Star Chase. So, police officers, when they chase, we don't chase. Police officers can't chase vehicles, but what we do have is something called Star Chase, where we can attach it to your vehicle when you take off, and we will track it. So that's something new that we started, and it's actually apprehended some people. So in other words, someone takes off with a stolen car, and we shoot something onto the car, and we can track it, and we've actually located the car without chasing. So we got a bunch of innovation. Police to Citizen. I don't know if you all know, online right now, there's Police to Citizen, where you can do police reports, low-level police reports, get a case number without having a police officer come to your house, so that you don't have the inconvenience of coming down to the police department, waiting for a police officer, that you can actually do it online in your home and get a case number. So yes, I would like to have a bunch of people like you so that you can help us, because listen, we're going into we are in a technological stage in our life. Things are changing, right? AI, we're going into all these advancements. So I would love to talk to you, but I still would love for you to be a police officer first. So I'm recruiting, you know. Yes, there is always room for that.
All right, Mike?
Yeah, Chief, this is the second meeting I've heard you talk about the danger of overwhelming the city. Where do you draw the line between helping people and attracting more people that need help? Because we could never win that way. We've seen that in Burlington, Vermont, where they advertised a whole lot of motels available for people. People from Quebec, New York State, Vermont, everywhere came and overwhelmed Burlington, Vermont because they went a little too far. How do we draw that line? And I guess what you say, we have fewer cops and fewer resources, and now we're getting more and more people that need those from a social service point of view. So how do you draw the line?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So it's creating these partnerships, right? Luckily, people are, I think, Chris, you said that, or someone said it, they are calling us to say, how are you handling the homeless problem? So we're happy that that's happening. The worst thing that could happen is we're doing that and no one's watching, because then people are just going to start coming. But we actually have people calling saying, hey, listen, we heard you have this going on. We would like to do the same thing in our town and city. So if we could spread that out, New Haven, Waterbury, Bridgeport, you see what I'm saying? Now that helps out. So that's a positive thing. One of the things is getting the message out there. Like if you just noticed, there was a message, there was a news story on Jimmy Barrett like 4 days ago. So that gets other people asking questions, like in meetings like this, hey, you know what they're doing in Hartford? Are we doing it? And then that city or town starts to go, you know what, we're going to look into it. Where do we draw the line? We have to keep helping people, and we won't stop. But what we will do is reach out, or like I said, they've been reaching out to us to form these partnerships where we can help them develop a model that's similar to ours so that we won't be overwhelmed with resources.
Okay. Another question?
All right. Chief, how you doing? Chavon, good to see you. Glad to be here. Brother Kelvin Lovejoy, Blue Hill Civic Association. Chief, it's kind of a two-part. One would first be a statement, and that is, in the city of Hartford, we had the Burns Grant at once upon a time, and all about partnership between Hartford Police and the community. Started up as a great initiative, and COVID stepped in. And, of course, that brought all kinds of challenges. Just 2024, summer 2024, we applied for a grant. I think it said it was entitled Reimagining Public Safety. And the feds were only giving out 2 grants, but we put in a really good application. Wondering what is the appetite for the Hartford Police Department to look at other federal grants or look at models that are really based in community engagement, and if we could have a conversation going forward about looking at even the application that we put in.
Yes, thank you for the question. Absolutely. That is something that I've already been on. I've talked to my staff about that. There's a lot of grants. There's grants out there for so many things, literally, and it's just a matter of a person searching for it, applying for it. Now, you know what the hardest part is, managing it, right? Of course. You have to manage the grant to sustain it. So yeah, I'm completely open to that, and I think that's I even toyed with having a individual committed in the police department, a civilian personnel, and that's all they do. It's grants. So I'm on that. You will see under my administration grants like that, but I need people like you to help me say, listen, because right now I don't have a dedicated person. You know, I have someone doing it, and it's sporadic. This person knows about this grant, this person knows about this grant. But what I'm talking about in the future is to possibly have a grant writer that does this all day. Search, search, search. They go to community meetings, they get the information. But until then, I need you, give me a call. Here's a grant, I saw this, and I will give it to one of my people, and they'll research it, and we can get that going. I want this city to be, this is the capital city. It needs to be it just needs to be the best. This is the capital city of Connecticut. When you come into Connecticut, it needs to be the best, and I think there's grant money out there that we could possibly be missing. So, welcome to it.
Look forward to it. Thanks.
Other questions? Go ahead, yep, in the back.
All right, so this question is open to both of you. So we're at the start of the year, and I wanted to know what new initiatives or improvements are being rolled out soon that will directly impact Hartford residents? If you guys can speak on that.
I'll start. So one of the things that we mentioned is that we do have a resource guide that's being created, and that's going to be rolled out hopefully by June 2025, goodness. Yeah, so, and again, that resource guide, I'll explain a little bit about what it is and the vision that we have for it. We want it to be available to the public, but then we also want it to be available to police, and then also available to community-based organizations, to the point where it's a mapping system. If someone puts in their address, they get to know all about the resources that are available in their neighborhood. And the contact person in their neighborhood. That means that we can have case managers that are working specifically with that resource guide to get them connected for those experiencing violence. And then also having that information available so that people can apply for more funding, because they know what's available and they know the crime statistics that are available too, so they can use that for applications to be able to bring in federal funds and state funds within the city. So that's one of the initiatives that we have establishing. We also are trying to see how we can tie in nutrition to see how that affects violence within the city of Hartford as well. When it comes to prevention, I think prevention, it ties in with social determinants of health, which basically means like where you live, what are the resources that are available to you, and how is that impacting your overall health in society. So when we're thinking about prevention, that needs to be one of the targeted approaches for prevention. So those are some of the things that we're working on right now.
Chavon, everything that you just described,
Yep.
the Hartford Ascent pipeline has been working on for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Are you working with them?
Yeah, actually sorry.
Are you working with them to get that MAP program going?
They actually,
Could you say what the organization he's asking about is?
yeah,
What's the name of it?
the Ascend Pipeline?
The Ascend Pipeline?
Yeah. So actually, they provided us with a template for their resource guide, and which was great, but it focused specifically on the north end. And ours is going to be citywide, specifically focusing on violence prevention. So that's really going to be the difference, but they gave us a roadmap on how to create it.
Great.
And explain what Ascend is.
So for the North Hartford Promise Zone specifically, Ascend was a program to be able to help and support the health of that specific area.
And who put it together? Who's involved with that? Education. You're right. You gotta put the mic up like this.
Oh, sorry. The Department of Education got it. Let me put this together right. Connecticut Children's Hospital received a grant from the Department of Education, and they had certain benchmarks. The streets are safe, kids are ready for school, attendance and kids are healthy, streets are safe, and they put all that stuff together, and they came up with a template to find out all the different resources that are in the neighborhood that are working on certain issues, and they put them together in a pamphlet or together a guide so that one can know what the other's doing, so we could basically trim some of the budgets and get better dollars for the bucks.
Great.
It's a short take on it.
Yeah, it's a good take.
And the Department of Children, Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation, they work collaboratively with them as well. But then
This
this
is a city department.
Yeah, this is a city department. Yeah. So I want to make sure that they're shouted out as well.
Hi.
Is there-
I was wondering if you guys have any ways to engage with residents, specifically youth, for public safety initiatives.
Yes, so we have the PAL program is probably the Police Athletic League is probably the best, one of the best programs that engages with the youth. I can't say enough good things about that. So we have that. They do so much stuff. They even take kids out for camping and so forth. We also have Police Explorers, which targets, I think it's age 13 to 18 or 21. That's something that if people are interested in law enforcement, they can go into that program. That's for Hartford residents. And the Explorer program, even if you don't want to be a police officer, it teaches you a lot about discipline. It teaches you about accountability. It teaches you about the skills and so forth to obtain employment in the future, education. It's just so much stuff that program also helps with the youth. That's just off the top of my head. Is the PAL program, the Explorer program, and the Cadet program, which is designed for that we actually pay people. I think it's 18 to 26, I think, or 25, where you could work. You're not a police officer, but you're in uniform, and you learn everything we learn, pretty much, as far as discipline and following rules, policies, and there's a lot of success stories from that cadet program. There's, I think the last chief was a cadet. I don't know if he was I think he was a cadet here. But so those are the programs that help kids. But besides those, under this approach, this community policing approach, I have 4 district managers. District managers, under the way it's supposed to be and the way I envision it, is that they're mini chiefs, so they're in charge of their area, and they come into the community and they get suggestions and they build initiatives, and they come to me and say, Chief, we just developed this program. We would like to implement it. The community said that they wanted this. They want to try this out. We checked it out. We did this and this, and can we do it? Go ahead and do it. So those district managers you're going to see play a major role in community policing. Not only that, it helps them develop into your future leaders as a chief of police. One of my goals here is to create succession of leadership. A lot of times we get into these positions and, we want to hog the position. Well, I'm not going to be here forever, and then I need to pass it on to someone else. So to answer your question, we have things in place, the PAL program, the cadet program, the Explorer program, but my district managers are an intricate part of designing programs that will help the youth in the city.
Some of the programs, several programs that I know about and work with or are under my office. We have representation here from the Blue Hills Civic Organization or Association. Hartford Communities That Care. They do an amazing job with taking a group of youth and creating policy recommendations specifically around violence and the effects and impacts on absenteeism and several different impacts within their schools and community. Compass Youth Collaborative is huge. They are one of the people that I directly contract with. And they have a 4-year program, and they deal with the people that are the most at risk, and they are walking them through de-escalation, through cognitive behavioral therapy. So those are some of the programs that they have, and then partnering them up with peer mentors and case managers. And there's another one, I don't know, Brother Call Institute. So there are so many different organizations that work with youth. One of the things that I will say is if you can donate to them, it would be helpful, because what that does is sometimes they get funding for specific things, right? So, but sometimes they'll have youth that need food, you know, and the funding might not allow for that. So those are some things that can be helpful for them because they can help someone in need quicker. So, and that's something we're trying to work on in my office, is trying to provide more basic need supports because we are running into youth that need help with food and that need help with housing immediately. Sometimes the narrative that we submit to whatever the funder is might limit us. So.
The police have a recruitment problem. The community has a police perception problem. And I mean, even just here, we had someone interested in helping out some way that isn't necessarily traditional police work. How do you see something about the intersection there where people want to help their communities, people are desperate to connect with each other, especially, I mean, some of the neighborhood groups here are much more active than others, but where do you see the opportunities to kind of change? Do you see opportunities to change the way police work is broken out so that people aren't afraid of people don't want to be cops because of the historical trauma related to police violence and things like that? And yeah, I guess.
Yes, thank you for the question. So, yes, so I'm in the process of trying to deploy the cops that are in the department, which are necessary right now, out into the streets. We're short just over 100 police officers, and I need all the officers I can get. So there is an opportunity there. I just hired 3 crime analysts, which there was 3 cops doing that. Now there's 3 civilians doing it. There's a bunch of opportunities. I put in the budget for public information officer. I put in there for a media specialist, I think, but I would like a civilian media specialist. Any and everything I can do to get the police officers on the street, because again, we have the shortage. As far as getting involved, I would encourage you to go to your NRZs, meet with your district managers, your community service officers. We have so many things that we can do together, such as up in the North End, they did an ice cream, like an ice cream social. Just sitting here with the community, they said, let's come up, let's do something for the kids. And they worked with police, and they had ice cream social. It was a wonderful event. I don't eat ice cream, I can't, but but it was an enjoyable event. The kids were there. It's just, those are the things that I like to see. One of the district managers, there's a district manager back there right now. She had given out toys with the community. So things like that, you could help do that and build a relationship with the officers. My goal is that you all should know your officers, and hopefully by their first names, okay? One of the tests with my officers is, how many names can you tell me in your community? How many people do you know in your community? And if they don't know, that's a problem. So the same thing with the community. How many officers do you know that work your area? I was in one meeting and they said, I don't know this cop, and this cop is supposed to be in this area all the time. So that was an issue. And that's the thing that's different with, well, I don't want to say different, but I'm very community involved. So I'm always going to be talking to community members, and I'll be able to know if you are satisfied with your service or not. And it's my goal, listen, if you go to a small town, they can tell you about their police officer. Hey, this is Johnny, he went to the high school, he grew up. I don't see the difference, I really don't. That you should know your police officers in this city, that you should know their names, you should know who they are, and it helps a lot. I've been on scenes when I was a young officer because I had this relationship where the police and the citizens were about to fight. I pulled up and it stopped. All the violence stopped because they said, we know this cop. We trust this guy. Hey, this is what's going on. That's the effect of this, if it's taken seriously and not just thrown around the word community police. And I don't like to just throw the word around. It's meaningful relationships that we have to build.
Okay, we've got just a few minutes left. Yep. Okay, one more question. So we get like 7 minutes.
Girls. A little higher. As a mother of 2 girls, put it more. I get terrified in the aspect of the community that I live in because over the years I've seen a lot more homeless males, not females, males cultivate in certain areas. I had to really advocate with the school system, well, let's just say the bus system, because they had my daughters have to walk to a bus stop where these homeless men are there at 5 o'clock in the morning, up and alert, and that terrified me because I have 2 girls that go to 2 different districts, and I would have to prioritize who I would be able to go with, and that terrified me. I had to really raise hell with the bus system because who is there to protect these children? I don't see any cops in my area at that time because my girls have to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning to catch, their 7:30 or 7:15 bus, and there's no one there but these men. This is their hangout spot.
What is the location you're talking about?
Frog Hollow. So they have canvassers that goes out the bus, and I just like I said, I raised hell because I'm like, did you guys go out there at the time that my daughter is supposed to go out and wait in this area where she's supposed to walk to this area? Did you go out there and see who's there, what's there, and is safe for children? So I guess I made someone think because that whole bus stop, they changed it. But I would feel safer if there were some police officers out there. I know it's pretty early, but they're out there and they're alert and ready to go on their day, and the children are walking during that time for their bus stop. How can we, get some community officers out there in that area to be able to notice these type of things and make some changes?
Thank you for that question. What I want you to do is to build a relationship with your district manager. Do you know who the district manager is? I think it's that's your district manager right there. If you tell her your concerns, she will arrange for police officers to frequent that area around a particular time. Unfortunately, the city is so large, right? And we're short 100 and some odd cops. So when you tell us stuff like that, the district manager is able to know there's a problem right here. If you're just telling a regular cop, he or she might be going to the next call, and go, okay. But if you tell the district manager, that's her focus, is trying to keep that safe, and she can call you and say, hey, listen, has this gotten better or not? I just want to know, I'm trying to work on it, and so forth. So, all right?
All right, so we're just about out of time. We're going to wrap it up in a second. Thanks for everybody who showed up. Really appreciate the questions. And if you're a resident of Sheldon Charter Oak, I'd encourage you to come to the NRZ meetings. They're via Zoom. And with that, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director. Go ahead, Marion.
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. I'm Marion Griffin, Board Co-Chair for Hartford Next, the coalition of the NRZs. And I want to piggyback on this last comment relative to the NRZs. Any of you here, if you're not a member of your NRZ, please join, because we meet monthly and we have these discussions, and there's always an officer there who can take in the information that you are sharing and concerns, and they're very responsive to the needs of the community. I'd also like to have everyone who's here to take a survey. Kim is going to pass those out. You can do a QR code, and that would help us if you use the QR code to do the survey. Those of you who are listening in, and we have your email address, we will be sending the survey out to you as well. So one of the things that we want everyone to do is to get involved. So you've heard the fact that we need officers, police officers, that we need others who can help the police department. Look around at your friends and neighbors and see who you can recommend to help the community, because that's helping all of us. The other thing is that if you have an area of interest that you're really passionate about, we need people on the commissions for the city. We will be having a session on boards and commissions later in the spring, and hopefully you will come and join and learn about the different commissions. But if you have some passion for any area, please raise your hand and do some service. You know, it will be helpful to everyone. The other thing I'd like to do is to share with you that we have, this episode will be up on our website, and it will also be up on Light Source Productions YouTube account. And we have prior episodes that are also available on our website. So please go to our website and take a look at the prior ones if you've missed them. And lastly, what I'd like to do is say thank you to our guests, Chief Howell and Chavon Campbell, and our host, Chris McArdle. But I'd also like to thank you who are watching or who are here in person for really making this a very, I think, insightful and great event. A lot of information was shared. There's a lot to think about relative to all of this. And I'd like to also thank Local Initiative Support Corporation, better known as LISC, for funding our episodes, our civic literacy series, because we are so interested in everyone understanding what the city does for us and what we can be doing for ourselves through the city. And also the program committee. Without the program committee, we would not be here. I'd like to thank our chairs, Frank Setner and Jack Antonich, and our other members, and Kim and Yasna, who's just joined us as our executive director. And if I've left anyone out, I am so sorry, but most of all, I thank all of you who've joined us today. Thank you again. Very good discussion. Thank you.